it's a very, very difficult read, isn't it? And it explains a lot about a man who admits himself in this memoir has been scarred for life from the age of 11.
Yeah, well, good morning, ladies. It is a completely shocking read this morning. I was quite shocked myself when I read it. I was even more shocked in the Madewell Hall, which is the school statement that Ellie has just read out. And they seem to be saying that not just Earl Spencer, but actually former pupils were making these sort of allegations against various matrons and masters at the time. I also find it very strange that they think that these practices are, which were sadly sometimes believed to be normal and acceptable. Well, they're not normal and acceptable in my life at any stage. You know, even in the 70s or even when I was at school, we never got treated like that. And I went to a school in Glasgow where they used the TAWs to discipline. But this is really dreadful. I mean, he names two teachers, one the headmaster, John Porch, and one the Latin master, who's a former High Sheriff of Kent, Henry Maud, both of whom have since died. He does not name the assistant matron, though, who came into his dormitory at night, and not just him, but other boys, and sexually abused them. Now, he doesn't know what's happened to this matron. He believes she's in her late 60s and could still be alive somewhere, married. I would have thought that he should be giving the name of that lady over to the police, and they should be making investigations and maybe prosecutions on a historic basis. So it really is dreadful. And you're absolutely right, Anne. This explains an awful lot about the Spencer family itself. It was a complicated family. Given we know what happened with the Princess of Wales and her bulimia and everything else, he seems to have suffered the same way. One thing that does stand out for me, though, I find very, very strange. After this, he's age 12. He goes to Italy with his mother and stepfather and has sex with a prostitute. Where were his mother and father when this was going on? I understand that, you know, he was mentally scarred and everything else, but that doesn't sound right to me in any shape.
No, but you can say that where was his mother throughout his childhood, because those Spencer children had a tough childhood, and I know that sounds extraordinary because they were very, very wealthy and aristocratic and everything, but their mother left them. Their father, by all accounts, was not exactly the kindest man in the world, and he makes the point in this memoir that he had no sense of intimacy from an older mother figure all through his childhood, and then to be sent to a school where he was actually abused by a woman is just, it starts to I don't know if you've read the bit where he said in the end, much later in life, he went to a therapist and talked through the whole thing, and he said, you know, what am I suffering from? Why am I suffering in this way? And the therapist said, frankly, my diagnosis is this: you had a thoroughly messed up childhood.
Sure.
And he didn't use the word messed, he used a much stronger word. And you can't help but have real sympathy.
But he also says that at the age of 9, when he was sent to this school, he thought he was being sent there because he hadn't lived up to being a good son for his family. So he's got that. But you know, the Spencer family has always been a very awkward family, in the sense that, you're right, mother left at an early age, dad who wasn't, you know, the greatest father in the world, and you then bring in Rain Spencer, who was his stepmother, and that relationship with her and the 4 children wasn't great at times, was not great at all.
Look, in happier news, shall we reflect on Prince Edward's birthday? He's turning 60, isn't he? And there have been some beautiful words exchanged between himself and Sophie this week. Yeah,
I mean, we have to remember, though, of all the royal children, he's the only one whose marriage appears to have worked. I mean, they seem to be a very happy couple. You know, they get on very, very well. And there's a fantastic picture that's released this morning of him sitting, you know, on a wall with his three dogs. I think one's a Labrador called Teal, a Cocker Spaniel with Mole, and a puppy, Teasel, which you can just see in the background. It doesn't quite grasp the idea of sitting nearby. But there is another picture of Edward with Teal in his hands and everything else. Great picture. And to mark the occasion, the king, his brother, has made him a member of the Order of the Thistle, which is the highest order in Scotland. Bearing in mind he's now the Duke of Edinburgh and is filling that role very well. And of course, he and Sophie have become quite key members of the royal family now, in the light of the various illnesses that have happened with the King's cancer and Catherine's surgery. So they are very heavily involved in getting on with life. And they've always been like that. It's not been always like that. They've both been controversial characters many years ago, but they have turned the corner and they're doing very well now.
Yeah, they really are. And they've got, well, especially Sophie, I suppose, but it's obviously rubbed off on Edward and the children. But they've got a bit of a common touch, haven't they? I mean, after the Duke of Edinburgh died, the former Duke of Edinburgh died, Prince Philip, she bothered to come out and talk to people outside Windsor Castle. And she didn't just use those clipped royal phrases. She actually spoke to people and told them what those last moments were like. And she was lovely to hear.
But she's always been, a down-to-earth lady. She's she wasn't always a member of the royal family. She's actually worked by herself, ran her own company, not successfully all the time, but not too bad. And so she knows very well what it's like to be, a member of the Hoylock, if you like. And it's very nice to see them, being key members of the royal family rather than just extras.
No, do you know what? That's a really good point, actually, Charles. I was just thinking the same thing myself. Thank you very much. Really good to see you this morning.
Pleasure.